This one's wife. Now the hypocrites attack Meta. Ding, 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 seconds out, round one. Yes, this one's wife clambering into the ring with the Zuck, as the hypocrite that she is, alongside her husband, have decided that they're going to criticize Meta. One of the interesting things that occurs in relation to certain narcissists is that you can always rely on them to fuck up. Many narcissists, the vast majority, are a lesser and mid-range. What tends to happen with those individuals is that where they're exposed amongst a particular group, they'll just move on and find somebody else elsewhere. Sometimes it's a different social group. Sometimes it causes them to move community, city, state, even country. But they'll invariably be able to find other victims quite readily. Existing victims have outed them. People in the community may well turn the narcissist into a pariah, but they are invariably able to move on because they're not particularly well known. More evolved narcissists amongst the greaters are less likely to be exposed because of their ability to nullify potential threats to control and the superior facades that they operate. This one's wife, however, has the problem that she is very well known, which is a contrast to most lesser mid-range narcissists, but she is a mid-range narcissist, which means that you can rely upon her to keep fucking up, and thus there be collateral consequences. And it's not the case that she can misbehave in a particular town and just move to another one. Her poor behaviour is demonstrated on a worldwide scale. Yes, there are still those who support her and think that people that criticise her are haters, and those individuals will only exist, but their numbers will dwindle. And one of the clear aspects of this one's wife's narcissism is not only the fact that she will mess up. I told you this some years ago as I predicted the downward spiral, but also that she never learns from the mistakes that she makes because the narcissism always tells her it is someone else's fault or something else's fault. Thus, she is never accountable. She's at it again, this time with a statement that has been released through the Archwell Foundation, which is headed Fact-Checking Meta. Already, the high-handed arrogance of this one's wife shines through to suggest we're here to fact-check a huge social media behemoth. Yes, because that's our job. The statement reads as follows. It doesn't matter whether your views are left, right, or somewhere in between. The latest news from Meta about changes to their policies directly undermines free speech. Now, I'll pause there because I'm going to have a jolly good laugh at this and then come back. Right, I had a jolly good laugh at that opening paragraph whereby we have this sanctimonious twit talking about undermining free speech. This is coming from a couple whereby Harry stated the First Amendment is bonkers, and this one's wife regularly engages in behaviour to silence anybody who criticises her. Typical of the narcissist, she will, on the one hand, talk about the necessity of free speech and how it must be protected, so long as it's her free speech. Your free speech doesn't matter, especially when it comes to you criticising her. Then you will be silenced. Already, the hypocrisy appears in the first paragraph. The statement continues, this should deeply concern us all. Contrary to the company's talking points, allowing more abuse and normalising hate speech serves to silence speech and expression, not foster it. In other words, if you don't like me, shut up. In an already confusing and in many instances intentionally disruptive information environment, Meta has shown their words and commitments have very little meaning or integrity. Isn't it hilarious that this woman, the archetypal liar and reviser of history, who peddles misinformation on a daily basis, has the gall to stand there and state that they have very little meaning or integrity? Whatever you might think about Meta and what it has done, and that's a separate discussion, the fact is that for this one's wife to release a statement criticising their move, given that her behaviour is high hypocrisy. The statement continues. As they announce these changes, undoubtedly responding to political winds, they once again abandon public safety in favour of profit, chaos and control. Sounds like somebody we know. The company's decision to roll back protections is so far away from its stated values and commitments to its users, including the parents and families calling for change around the globe, that it's now deeply deceptive. Millions of people are using Meta's platforms in the United States. Hundreds of millions more are using them globally. Many use the platform to spread joy, build community, and share empowering information. Unfortunately, Meta's recent decisions go directly against its stated mission to build human connection. Well, while we're talking about stated missions, this one's wife, what about your stated mission, which is to turn up and do good? Because latterly it's turn up and get in the way, or turn up and self-promote. Could it not be said that your recent decisions go directly against your stated mission of the Archwell Foundation? Of course they do, because you're a hypocrite. Instead, she states that the recent decisions instead prioritise those using the platforms to spread hate, lies and division at the expense of everyone else. Given the profound global impact that Meta's decisions have on the world, of which many are still recovering from or actively suffering from, the politics of one country should never determine whether freedom of expression and civil and human rights are protected in the online spaces so clearly shaping or destroying democracy. Online spaces must be designed with public safety and well-being at their core, resilient against political pressures and lapses in corporate leadership. This latest move from Meta is an example of a social media company, fully aware of their power to shape public discourse, disregarding any responsibility to ensure that power is not abused, and instead allowing either ego or profit. Aren't those two things that you tend to be guided by this one's wife? Your ego in terms of the necessity of control and the gathering of fuel, and profit naturally being a residual benefit. We are particularly alarmed by plans to abandon commitments to diversity and equity. And I think many people around the globe are going, hallelujah, common sense at last, coupled with internal policy changes that undermine protections for marginalised communities. These decisions echo what experts, whistleblowers and families have raised in hearings on online harm, especially regarding children's safety. Platform design, dictated by internal policies, directly determines our online experience. To ignore this is knowingly putting everyone in harm's way and contributing to a global mental health crisis. Meta's changes to its hateful content policies do not protect free expression, but instead foster an environment where abuse and hate speech silence and threaten the voices of whole communities who make up a healthy democracy. You mean voices such as yours that tell lies regularly, yours that abused a queen and her husband and extended family in the Oprah Winfrey? Do you mean those views? We urge Meta to reconsider and reinstate policies to protect all users. I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg's response to this statement would be We also call on leaders across industries to uphold their commitments to integrity and public safety in online spaces, and we applaud leaders who refuse to kowtow to bullying. Which is hilarious, given that this is coming from a woman who has repeatedly been accused of, yes, bullying. The statement then makes reference to other organisations that they support, and then concludes, having worked in this space for the last 5 years and witnessing the real-world devastation these decisions have, we feel there is no justification for why this industry behaves as if they are exempt from the ethical and moral standards everyone else abides by. We could well ask the same question of you. We at the Archwell Foundation remain committed to promoting accountability, that's a laugh, you never show any, safeguarding information integrity, and protecting all communities in the digital age. We hope and expect those enabling Meta's profits, like advertisers and shareholders, to do the same. Now, first of all, who is she and Harry to lecture people in this way? Are they experts on this topic? No. Naturally, they are allowed to express an opinion, but it's for us to determine what weight we give that opinion. And the weight that we give it is none. That is because neither of them are experts, neither of them are particularly intelligent individuals, and in particular, they are a pair of hypocrites, especially this one's wife. This one's wife's modus operandi is that if you criticise her, you're a hater. And that is a fact. That is a fact in her world. She is unable to recognise objective criticism of her. This is because of her narcissism. And that polluting mindset has spread to many of her supporters, who regularly will place comments on social media, "I don't understand the hate against this woman." It's not hate. It's disapproval. It's criticism. Go and buy a dictionary and look at what hate actually means. Furthermore, are you incapable yourself of actually looking at her behaviour and realising what she does? Evidently so. It's lazy. It's intellectual flabbiness, where these individuals just trot out the, "I don't understand why she's so hated." Well, if you actually applied your brain cells, you'd understand it's not hate, it's disapproval, it's dislike, and there's plenty of evidence to support that. But once again, we have this one's wife exhibiting her hypocrisy and utilising a foundation to preach at people. In the United States, the First Amendment protects the freedom of speech. But that's something that this one's wife only uses when it's to her benefit. The rest of the time, she wants it ignored, especially when it comes to criticising her. And the high-handed arrogance of issuing such a statement in this nature, of acting as if she's some kind of protector of the online space, is laughable. She is a known peddler of misinformation. She's done it repeatedly with the lies, proven lies, that she has engaged in and the revisions of history. But we all know that she's a hypocrite because of her narcissism, because she's unable to see her own faults, her own contradictions. She's blinded to them. It is not the case that she knows them and carries on regardless. She simply doesn't see them because that's the way that her narcissism functions. And here we have this statement with this kind of nonsense. It's also interesting, of course, that it flies in the face of things that they've said before. A Redditor called Curious Candor, who has contributed on a thread on the subreddit saying "This One's Wife," they use her full title, as you know I do not, points out quite aptly that Harry once stated, "Whatever the cause, my memory is my memory. It does what it does, gathers and curates as it sees fit, and there's just as much truth in what I remember and how I remember it as there is in so-called objective facts." Okay. So it's all right for you, Harry, to have a view, and you then say that's just as legitimate as a so-called objective fact. I.e., once again, you and your wife want your cake and you want to be able to eat it. Well, the fact is, other people are able to articulate what they say about you and your wife. You don't like it. The pair of you don't like it, but they are entitled to advance it. And that's what Meta is allowing. Yes, we know that also Meta is catering to the shifting political landscape, but at the end of the day, such an adjustment is appropriate because for too long, those that would quash freedom of speech in the interests of their own narrow-minded world view have had their way for too long, and an overdue correction is finally occurring. The nonsense that was propagated under the auspices of DEI, which was just a convenient banner for people to assert control, is being cut back and done away with, and it's overdue. Naturally, this provides an opportunity to this one's wife. On the one hand, she sees it as a threat to control, hence this statement, and secondly, it's seen as an opportunity for her to try and fly that flag of, I'm here to protect people, when in actual fact, all she's here to do is protect herself. The hypocrisy is evident once again, and you know why that is. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.